Right, I'm going to be showing you how to improve the effectiveness of your Airsoft silencer. Now here I have two. This is the one for my P90, and this is off of the Turkey Muri VSR G-spec, the quietest bolt action spring powered bolt sniper rifle there is. And if I just unscrew this you have to forget that is incredibly tight. I had to use pliers on here to crack it open, but once I've put it back together, I'm going to just black paint it in. And then when you pull these out, you should see, get all these pulled out, there are spacers inside, in between the sponges. There you go, that's all of them. Now these are tapered spacers. Just plastic spacer. You've got sponge and then a conical spacer, and then the next piece of sponge and another conical spacer. So it, if you can see down there, it's hard to focus, but the diameter of the hole in the spacer is smaller than the diameter of the sponge. So it gathers the sound, disperses it into the sponge, and that's what makes it so quiet. So I'm not going to be able to do a conical spacer or how to make one, but I'll be able to do the next best thing. So if we just put this back together again, I'm not going to screw it in all the way, it's too loud. When you undo standard Airsoft silencer, inside it is just sponge after sponge and sponge. Now this does reduce the sound of your gun firing, but we can improve on that by taking the shell of your silencer, a styrofoam pizza base. These are really good for airsoft target practicing as well, because when you hit with a BB it really shows up, because you can see the whiteness. And then you're going to just push down and twist on the styrofoam, and it should cut out a nice little ring. You just trim these edges off with a pair of scissors or a sharp knife. And what you want to do is you want to have it so you have sponge, and you're going to have a spacer in there, sponge and another spacer, sponge and another spacer. So you need 1, 2, 3 spacers. There's a nice neat hole. So do this until you've got 3 spacers, and we'll come back to that. Alright, got 3 spacers. Now we need to put a hole through the centre of them, and the best way to do that is to put one sponge in, make sure it goes right down to the bottom, use a pencil just to poke it down, there we go, and then install one ring, and again using the pencil, make sure it stays square, poke it down to the very bottom. You can't quite see down, there's no light, but it's down all the way down to the bottom, it's nice and square. And then install the rest of your sponges. Do the silencer back up. Attach the silencer to your gun. Fire 2 or 3 rounds through it, and it should punch a hole through the styrofoam, and there you'll get your centre mark, and then we can use that as a template to do the rest. We'll come back to that after I've done that. Here we go, all done. Now I've got 3 spacers with holes right in the middle. Once you've fired the shot through one spacer, you can use the centre of that to use a pencil to centre it and then poke through. And then using a pen, which is approximately 8mm in diameter, push it through just to and twist it through. That just makes the hole a little bit larger, because then you've got 1mm clearance all the way around the BB as it goes through, and as you can see, the difference in size and hole between the sponge and the spacer is a lot smaller, so that should help stop the sound escaping and make the sponge absorb more. So put it back together again, one sponge, one spacer. And pushing it down with the blunt end of the pencil, making sure it stays square. Then the next sponge goes in, and the next spacer, and then so on. Finished. Back together again. Looking in here, you can see sponge, and then spacer. Flip it over, again sponge, followed by another spacer. You see the hole size has been reduced quite a lot. You've now got 1mm of clearance around the BB as it passes through, so that should help reduce the sound. The sound is backed up by each spacer, absorbed by the sponge, and so on. If you're finding that the BBs are actually hitting those spacers on a regular occurrence, you shouldn't be really doing any firing and moving. You're going back and forwards, because if you imagine the BB is in a straight path, and then as you fire, when it gets to here, and you've moved your gun, it's still going to be going on this path, which is why it's impacting. It happens quite a bit as well on the end, before I even installed the spacers, if you're moving your gun too rapidly. But if you find it happens a lot even when you're completely stationary, just insert a pencil into the front of your silencer, downward pressure on the pencil, roll the silencer backwards and forwards, and that should open up those holes. And then of course flip it around, do the same for this end as well. Make sure you're in at least 2 of those spaces to make sure your pencil stays square, and that should cure it. And there you go, one greatly improved silencer for the price of, I think it was a Tesco's pizza. And I had some food as well. Yummy.